What is happening, you wonderful people? So, March is flown by. Today is the last day of March, which is crazy. First day of April tomorrow. So, in the month of March, I saw 7 new films. Wanted to see a few more, but I just didn't end up seeing those films. But 7 films, so we're going to rank them from worst to best. Let's talk about it. So coming in the last place, number 7 is a film I saw at South by Southwest, Odessa. I gotta say, I didn't fully love Odessa, and Odessa is one of those films that I saw at South by Southwest, but was one of the films that I had no expectations for, and it's a film that if I wouldn't have seen it at South by Southwest, if they wouldn't have screened it there, I wouldn't be watching it because it is a straight to streaming film. It is a film going to Hulu. So first things first about this film is that visually it is cool. I like how it's directed. I thought it was directed very well, and it has its own unique style. This movie is a very different, a very niche film. It's not obviously being talked about a lot, but it's a very niche film. It's very unique. It has its own sense of style, and it has its own artistic flavor. You know what I mean? Or artistic flair, not flavor, but flair. And I thought Sadie Sink was great. I thought she was great. I mean, who doesn't love Sadie Sink? She's great. She's great in Stranger Things. She's great in everything she's in. Regina Hall, for the time she has in this film, she's not in it much, but she's in it for majority of the film. She was fine. She was good. Overall, I thought all of the acting, I thought all of the performances were great. And I thought for the most part, the music was cool. The music's unique as well, and the music also has its own, like, I don't know if I say style or flair, but the music's different. The music is unique. But with Odessa, it overstays its welcome. It overstays its welcome, and the characters are not likable. They are not memorable. They are not very likable, and you just don't understand their motivations, and you don't really care about anything that's going on and what their motivations are and what they're doing. You just don't care. And the funny thing is, this film, when I was writing my review after I saw the film, I was like, this is definitely the oddball of South by Southwest for the movies, and that one that I saw so far at that time. I was like, I think this is the oddball. It's definitely the oddball. And for my South by Southwest ranking, I saw 10 films and then 11 projects because of 2 episodes of the studio. And this is my least favorite out of all of them. So it was number 11. And it just has a very weird and strange vibe to it. You know what I mean? And it's just, the thing is that the story feels very disjointed, and it feels very unfocused for the most part. And the film is technically a romance film. It is. But since it is technically a romance film, the romance side of it doesn't feel earned. You know what I mean? It does not feel earned at all. And that is Odessa. It's number 7, last place for the month of March. It's meh. And coming in at number 6 is another film that I saw at South by Southwest, Holland. And in this film, it stars Nicole Kidman, Gael Garcia Bernal, Matthew McFadden, and a great cast overall. And I had no expectations for this film. And this is another film straight to streaming to Prime Video. If they would have not screened this at South by Southwest, I would not have watched this film. I wouldn't. And it's better than Odessa. I will say that. It is better than Odessa, but that's not saying much. It's not at all, because it's not a great film. It's not. And I'll start with the good. I think that the performances are great. I think they are. Nicole Kidman, I'm not a huge Nicole Kidman fan. I'm just not. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people are fans of her. I know a lot of people like her. She's okay. But that's not to say she's not a great actress, because she is a great actress. She is. And she was great in this movie. She was fine. Matthew McFadden, I like Matthew McFadden. He's awesome. He was great in this. Gael Garcia Bernal, who doesn't like him? He's great. He was great. And so everyone in this film was great. They were all great. And the same thing with this film is that it is directed well. It is directed well. I like how it's directed. And the score is good. I like the score in this film. It is very eerie. It has a very, very eerie tone and eerie vibe to it. You know what I mean? Which I like that. I thought that was cool. And Same thing with this film as well. It has its own unique style and look. While it is directed well, because it is directed well, it has a unique style. It's different. It's a different film, which it's a very niche film. It's going to be a very niche film. Not everyone's going to be talking about it. I think it released on Prime Video March 27th, so a couple of days ago. And no one's talking about it. No one is. So it's very niche, a very small, low budget scale film. It's not. Look, those things are good about the film. They are. But my problem with the film is that the writing is just meh. The writing is just bleh. It's just not good. It's not great. It overstates its welcome as well. And something felt off about the film. Overall, the whole entire film, I still can't figure out what it is. I can't. Something just felt off. It did, and it's super bizarre. It's a very, very bizarre film, and the thing is, I couldn't connect with the characters and the story overall. None of that was memorable in the slightest, and the story was confusing. It was very confusing. It feels like it didn't kick into gear until the beginning of the third act and then towards the end when the film ended. And the thing with this film is that when it starts, right, it's very confusing. When it starts from the beginning of the first act all the way until, I don't know, maybe the middle of the second act, beginning of third act, I couldn't understand what this film was trying to do, what it was trying to be. I couldn't figure out what it was trying to say or what it wanted to say. I didn't know what this film wanted to be. I didn't know if it wanted to be a comedy. I didn't know if it wanted to be a romance film. I didn't know if it wanted to be a mystery, a thriller. It was like all over the place. It was all over the place, and there's this twist that happens around the second, third act that actually kind of works. I will say the twist it does kind of work because maybe at times the mystery is interesting, maybe a little bit, but overall, as a whole, it just falls flat and it just doesn't go anywhere. You don't know what it's trying to say. You don't know what it's trying to be. So yeah, Holland's number 6. It's just meh, just falls flat. And coming in at number 5, a film that I was actually not planning on seeing, and a film that I gotta say the marketing was terrible for this film. The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. Now, I don't talk about it much. I really don't, but I am a huge Looney Tunes fan. I love Looney Tunes. I've loved Looney Tunes ever since I was little, even though I don't talk about it much. Mainly the characters. I love the characters, all their banter back and forth, and I had the DVDs. I think I still do. I'm pretty sure. But I love Looney Tunes, so I was semi excited to see this film. But I say semi excited because the marketing was terrible for this film, and I was not planning on watching it. I learned about it late. I heard about the film late, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll go see it. So I went to go see it, and first and foremost, I will say that animation's well done and fun. It's that Looney Tunes animation that you know and love, that you're used to. That was great. I really enjoyed that, like, part of it, that esqueness of it. You know what I mean? And I thought that obviously the characters are fun. Daffy Duck and Porky Pig. You love those characters. You know those characters. You know how their banter is going to be. You know how those characters are written. You love those characters. And the thing with this film, it is self-aware in a way, sort of. I guess it's kind of self-aware. I like that about it. And there's some good humor. Not all the humor lands. I'll touch on that more in a bit. It's fun in its own. It's fun in its own merit, I think. And it is fun at times. It is. But the problem with this film is that there's just no substance. There's no substance in this film. There's not. And it overstates its welcome. And overall, the narrative feels really uninspired and boring. And it just never finds its pace. You know what I mean? It never finds its pace. And it never fully captured me. And it just overall felt dull and bland. And I really hate to say that because I love Looney Tunes. But at the same time, I had no expectations for this film. But I was going to give it a chance because I give every movie I see a chance. And a Looney Tunes film, I will give every Looney Tunes film I see and go see a chance because I love Looney Tunes. I've loved Looney Tunes ever since I was little. But it's just a story you've seen a million times before. You know how it starts. You know how it ends. And not all of the humor lands at all. And some of it does. Like, there's times where it's actually funny, but some of the humor just doesn't land at times. And overall, it's just, I'm really disappointed. But I also don't want to say I'm disappointed because I had no expectations, if that makes sense. But overall, it's just a Looney Tunes movie. The Day the Earth Blew Up is kind of dull and bland. And coming in at number four is another film I saw at South by Southwest that I had no expectations for, Ash. And basically, what this film is about is it stars Isaac Gonzalez and Aaron Paul. And she's an astronaut. She wakes up on this distant planet, and her whole crew is dead. So Aaron Paul kind of comes in, not late into the picture, but he's like one of the main characters, but like the side character. You know what I'm talking about. Isaac Gonzalez is the main character. And she goes on this like this mystery. She's trying to find out what happened, and I gotta say, I didn't have any expectations. And this is another film that they did not screen at South by Southwest. I would have not have watched it. I wouldn't have. And I do think that the visual aesthetic is great. I love the visual aesthetic in this film, and I think the atmosphere overall of the film is good. Aaron Paul and Isaac Gonzalez are great. Aaron Paul's always great. Isaac Gonzalez is always great. You don't really feel their chemistry and dynamic. You really don't. And the mystery aspect isn't that great, in my opinion. I'll touch on those in a bit more in depth in a little bit. But the directing style and the score are both unique. I think the whole film overall is unique, you know. And it's the thing, like a lot of films at South by Southwest are niche films, unique streaming films. Not all of them, but some of them, you know. And I feel like this is a Shudder film straight to streaming, and it released on there the 21st, so it's only almost a week old, I think, or a few days old. And it's very unique. It's very niche. It is a very niche film. Um, I think that the score and the directing style are both unique. Same with the sound design. I thought the sound design was unique as well. But the problem with this film is it never takes its time. It never does. And there's not enough time to understand the narrative and the characters. And the mystery aspect doesn't work as well as it should. It really doesn't. And the build up to the twist doesn't feel earned. It doesn't. And the payoff in the end just feels very lousy and dull. And I could see the potential. I could definitely see the potential in this film. But the problem is, it goes on for way too long, too. It goes on for way too long in a way. And you're just like, I'm not interested in what's going on. And I want to get excited for the mystery and the payoff in the end. But overall, right now, I'm not. And coming in at number three is Mickey 17. Now, I had no expectations for Mickey 17. But when they released that first trailer, I was like, ooh, this looks interesting. Like, I'm actually interested in this film. So, I went to go see it actually that Friday before I headed over to South by Southwest, so that was cool. So I was excited about that, and I was excited about the film, you know. But I gotta say, not a horrible film, not a horrible film by any stretch of the imagination, but it falls flat. It really does. Like, I think it's directed well, it is shot well, it is very unique, and I love that atmosphere, and I love the aesthetic of the film. I do, and it's visually appealing and striking, I think. And acting's great. I think the acting is really great in this film. And I got it. The rest of the cast is great, and I got to give it up to Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson's always great, but he was really good in this film, and he did good playing a dual role, if you want to call it that. He did a really good job balancing the humor with both characters. He did a really good job balancing the, you know, the wit and the um just like how his character was written. I thought it was good. I thought it was really good, and it is funny at times. Not all the humor lands, but overall, talking about the positives, I think the film, it's unique. It is, and there are some good things about it. But the problem is here, the pacing isn't tight. And I was sitting there. This movie's like 2 hours and 15, 2 hours and 20 minutes, something like that. It might even be 2 hours 18, 2 hours and 30 minutes. I'm not even sure. But it's a very long film. It is a very long film. And my head was hurting. Like, I'm not even joking when I say it was hurting. And I just wanted it to end. I wanted it to end. And it's way too long. I couldn't get connected to the characters. I couldn't get connected to the overall story or anything like that. And it's just the story doesn't work overall, in my opinion. And I see the potential. I do. Trust me. I saw the potential. And I was like, man, it's right there. It's right there in my grasp, man. You know what I mean? You know what I mean when I say that. Like, I could see it, but overall, good. There's some good things about it, but overall, it just doesn't work, man. And coming in at number two is Death of a Unicorn. I was actually supposed to see Death of a Unicorn at South by Southwest, but the line was wrapped almost around the whole entire building. I was in line, but sadly, I was one of the people that did not get in. And I was right there by the door as well. And I was like, oh, man. So I went to an early screening last week. And I got to say, I did not love Death of a Unicorn, but I actually enjoyed it. Like I didn't fully love it, but overall, I had fun with it. I thought it was fun, and I think it is fun for the most part. And Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd are great. You don't really feel their chemistry though, and I'll go more into depth on that when I talk about the negatives. Right now is positive, but I thought the acting is was good. But overall, I got to give it to Will Poulter. I got to give it to him. I've always thought he's a great actor. He's a fun actor. He was hilarious in this film, man. He was so good. And it has that great witty humor, and I'll touch on this later again. Not all the humor lands, but for the most part, the humor does land, you know what I mean? Um, but Will Poulter stole the show, and he was hilarious, man. And it's actually at times intense and thrilling. Like you actually feel the tension, you feel the suspense at times, you know? And it is, people were saying it's reminiscent of Jurassic Park. Like people were saying it's Jurassic Park for unicorns. At first, I couldn't see it. At first, I was watching the movie and I was like, Jurassic Park for unicorns? Really? I don't know what people are talking about. But once we meet Will Poulter and his family and they're like in that mansion and all of that, I'm like, oh, okay. And then the carnage comes later, and I'm like, okay, I get what you're talking about now. Okay, yeah, it does. So it did feel like that. It did, and it feels very unique in its own way as well. It does, and the VFX on the unicorns actually didn't look too bad in my opinion. I thought, and it gets more interesting when the second act starts. At first, I was not digging it. At first, I was like, okay, okay, I'm not feeling this that much. But even when I was like, when the second act started, I was like, oh, it's not fully interesting, but it got more interesting as it went on. Not like the best story you've ever seen on a like on film, you know, but you're like, okay, might have something here, you know. But along with Death of a Unicorn, not all the humor lands. Not all of it lands, and I feel like the pacing could have been tighter, in my opinion. And it does overstay its welcome a little bit as well. And the story felt like it was lacking something important, and I don't know what it is. I still can't figure out what it is, but it also feels overly familiar. Like this is a film you've seen before. You know how it starts. You know how it's going to end, and the usual tropes are thrown in there, like the daughter and father arguments, and like they don't have a bond and all. You've seen that trope a million times. That trope is in this film. It is, and the story's not as interesting as it should be. But overall, I did enjoy Death of a Unicorn. Didn't fully love it. It's not a film that's going to be in my top 10 films of the year, but it is fun. And coming in at number one, Novocaine. Now, same thing with Novocaine. I didn't fully love Novocaine. It's not going to end up being in my top 10 films of the year, but I had fun with Novocaine. It was fun. Again, didn't fully love it, but I had fun with it overall. And overall, it's a blast. This film is a blast, man. And Jack Quaid and Amber Midthunder are great in this film. Their chemistry is great. And Jacob Batalon's in this film. He's not in it for long, but when he is in it, he shines. And when he is in it, him and Jack Quaid, their chemistry is great, I thought. And, you know, it is hilarious. Not all the humor lands, but the humor is witty and smart, I feel like. And it felt like a fish out of water story. You know what I mean? Which I thought that was cool how they played on that, you know. And some of the action scenes will literally make you wince and cover your eyes. And I was like, oh gosh, dude. Like, it's a thing because in this movie, he can't feel pain. And that is a real condition like SIPO or SIPA or whatever it's called that people have in real life. And SIPA or SIPO, I forgot what it's called. Um, it's just that's a scary thing. So you feel for his character in this film, and throughout the film, he's nervous because you know he can't feel pain. You know what I mean? So you're like, oh, I feel for that character, man. And you also are like, okay, he can't feel pain, so that's cool. But you feel for him because he can't feel it, and he doesn't know if he'll get shot. He doesn't know if he'll get stabbed eventually, and you're like, oh gosh, that is scary. And I thought the action scenes, they were good. They were brutal and intense. And the twist that we get a twist in the film that I did not see coming. But when we do get that twist, it actually worked in my opinion, I thought. And you feel the suspense and tension. But my problems with the film, and I don't have very many because the positives I think outweigh the negatives. It does overstay its welcome as well. It does. But I feel like the pacing could have been tighter. Sometimes it felt fast. Sometimes it felt slow. So kind of the pacing was kind of all over the place in a way. Not overly all over the place, but at times it was. And you've seen the story before. You have. You know how it starts. You know how it's going to end. And I feel like it is at times a very paint by numbers and very run of the mill film. But that didn't take me out of it. You know what I mean? Overall, I enjoyed the film. And while the action is good, I enjoyed the action. I feel like we could have had maybe a little bit more action scenes in a way, sort of. And it is a little predictable, a little generic, but overall, I enjoyed the film. I thought it was a blast. So that'll wrap up this video. Thank y'all so much for watching. If you are new to the channel, please do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, share in this video. We are at 827 subs. Next big milestone we're reaching quickly is 900. And then after that is 1K, the big one. And then beyond that as well. And if you're new as well, I do movie reviews, TV show reviews, trailer reactions, movie live streams, movie news, movie rankings, all that wonderful movie stuff under the movie umbrella. And let's talk about in the comments down below. What movie did y'all like the most in March? What movie did y'all hate the most in March? Did y'all like Death of a Unicorn the most? Did y'all like NOVOCAINE the most? Let's talk about it down below. Keep talking movies, wonderful people. Cheers.